This past April, I was able to record over $350,000 in trading profits across multiple prop firms. And in this video, I'm going to be pulling back the curtains and showing you exactly how I was able to do that. This is far from just another monthly recap. I spent hours putting together an in-depth presentation for you guys, a masterclass of sorts on exactly how I've been able to find consistent success in my trading without blowing up, burning out, or sabotaging as soon as things start to really heat up in my trading. So stick around until the end because this genuinely might be the most valuable YouTube video I've ever put out. So the way I structured this video is I'm going to go ahead and start with just going through the analytics, some of the stats, breaking down the numbers, because obviously if someone's making a video on making $360,000 in a month, I want you to understand this. I want to do this fully transparently so you understand what the numbers are composed of, how much money I actually get to keep from this, right? Because I'm trading with prop firms and all of that good stuff that most people are just not going to show you at all, right? So I'm going to go through the stats. I'm going to go through all of that good stuff. And then I'm going to break down the really tangible takeaways from what I've learned from myself, my own journey that you can implement into your trading immediately. And there's a lot of it and it's really in depth. All right, so stick with me here and we'll go ahead and get started. So starting off here with the analytics from April, I made about $360,000. Now, I do not get to keep all of this profit. Some of this profit was actually on eval accounts before they went to sim funded. And the majority of it was on sim funded accounts, which I'll break down in a second here. 2.18 profit factors, pretty solid. I'm really happy about that. Win percentage is good. And then the main stat that I need to work on, which I will elaborate on this, is the win to loss ratio. Typically on a normal month, it's between 0.9 and 1.1 on almost all my months. But there was a day that specifically really skewed both the win percentage and the average win to loss, which was the 15th of April. What happened was I actually made way too much money on a trade in my Tradify accounts. And for those of you who trade with Tradify, the consistency rule on the sim to funded accounts is 20%. So if you make pretty much every $100 you make over that 20%, you need to make 500 in total to qualify for the withdrawal. So on that day, I actually entered a position and it went really heavy in my favor really quickly. And I didn't realize until I exited that I actually made too much money and I was already over withdrawal. So I made about $3,000 more than I should have. And by doing that, now I needed to make 15,000 more to get to withdraw. So I spent a lot of that day in really bad conditions trying to actually lose money to get back under that. And I failed miserably because the conditions were terrible. So I ended up taking some really big losses and then also trading a ton, which really killed my win percentage and my win loss ratio, which I actually included the graph right here so you can see on the 15th. My win percentage dropped dramatically as well as my average loss dropped dramatically, right? So that really killed me because it was a lot of trades, a lot of big losses because I was trying to lose money and just a lot of losses in general. So I wanted to point that out. The next thing I wanted to point out real quick is that my strategy, specifically my system, it's all catered to having a higher win percentage. So my win percentage is typically between 75 and 85% in general, and it has a lower R multiple, right? So if I have a 1R multiple, I'm really, really happy with that stat because my win percentage is usually around 80%. So it means I'm risking $100 to make $100, but I'm winning 80% of my trades, which is, very profitable. So that's something I'm willing to sacrifice. The reason I do that is because for my own mental game and because of how I trade, having a higher win percentage is really healthy for my mental state, right? I get a lot of momentum. I feel good. I don't have to deal with deep drawdowns or anything like that. So I personally really like that. Now, when I dig into these stats a little bit more, you're going to see that the majority of my profits came after the 15th of April, right? It was, still some bigger days, but really, really big days after the 15th. And the reason for that is because of the consistency rule. I actually ended up, I believe, up 20,000 on those Tradify accounts. So I needed to make a total of 100 grand on both of those accounts to qualify for the next withdrawal. So I ended up, having to size up a bit, which was nice because it pushed me out of my comfort zone. So that's why there's some really big numbers in here. It's primarily from those Tradify accounts after the 15th on the sim funded ones. All right. So there's not really too much to dive into here. I don't want this to be about stats necessarily. I did just want to break down some of the stats and explain why my profit was so high, as well as why the win percentage and the average win to loss took a bit of a hit. It was because of that 15th. Now, when I go over here, I actually broke down all the profits so you could see where it came from in these accounts. And then I also included actual credibility in showing you the withdrawals I got specifically after the 20th of April due to my trading. All right. So first starting out, right, total profits recorded was about $358,000. Of that, eval profits accounted for 48.5K. So about $50,000 were eval profits, passing evals to get the sim funded. And then the rest of it were sim funded profits across Top Step, MFFU, Tradeify, and Take Profit was just straight evals. Now going down here a little bit more, I don't want to waste too much time, but Top Step, I ended up purchasing 10 accounts in total. The first 5 evals, I was being aggressive and I did fail those ones pretty much the same day I bought them. I bought 5 more and I did pass those and still have those. So 30,000 of those eval profits came specifically from Top Step, and then just about $1,100 in express profits. I haven't really been trading Top Step as much. I've been mostly focused on MFFU, Tradeify, and Take Profit. And now actually I've added Apex to the mix this month. So I have some more accounts to work on. MFFU, 4 accounts in total. None of them failed. 4 of them went to sim funded, right? So that accounted for $13,000 in profits. And I did pass 1 backup account just to have in case I did fail one. I had one that could go live right away. And then on those 3 sim funded MFFU accounts, I made $58,200 in April. And since then, I've been able to take 12 withdrawals, 10 withdrawals since I made this presentation for a total of $12,000 in payouts. And then I just wanted to put the notes in here for those of you who aren't familiar with MFFU. There's 5 days required in between payouts, and the consistency rule is 40%. I included a screenshot of the balances right here. This was taken, I think, 3 days ago. And then here's some payouts I've had since then. You can see the dates, April 16th to May 5th, April 22nd to May 7th, April 11th to May 5th again. So 2 4800s and 1 3600 right there. And my whole goal with MFFU is to just pretty much make the minimum on those accounts, which is $100 a day on all 3 of them. And just keep taking the payouts until they move me live. I'm going to be able to get 1 more payout on both of these and 2 more payouts on this middle account. And then they'll move me live with the $7,500 live account. All right. Now, Tradeify, again, that's where most of the profits came from. It was a really big task to make 100 grand on both of these accounts. I've never traded with that much size, but I started to realize really fast as I was trading with it that it's no different than trading with, 5 MNQs. I'd be trading with 5 NQs. At times where conditions were really good, I'd size up to 10 NQs, right? So I had a huge buffer to work with. And it feels weird doing that at first because you're just not used to emotionally handling that much size. But as I started doing this more and more, I did get a lot more comfortable with it. And I think this was a really good, I'm very glad this happened because it was a very good growth opportunity for me to just get used to handling trading more size. All right. So of those 2 accounts, $250,000 in sim profits. So far, I've actually taken 4 withdrawals, 3 withdrawals as of the time of this video for about $9,000. And on Tradeify, one of the things that's a little bit annoying about it is there is a 10-day period required in between payouts. And after the first payout, you have to make 9,000, and then after that, it's 4,500 for the next payout, and then 3,000 for the following payouts. So I was able to hit the 4,500 the next 2 ones, and now I just have to make $300 a day for 10 days to hit the next 3,000 one. So pretty solid on that. Again, I included screenshots below just for full transparency. Here's my account balances right here. My drawdown is 107 and 105. Here's the total balance of the accounts. And then I actually included the screenshots from the dashboard right here, 107,000 in profit, 104,000 in profit. And then again, 10 trading days in between payouts, which is a big thing to note, and the 20% consistency. So you can't just make a bunch of money one day. You really just have to be consistent with these accounts to keep qualifying for those payouts before they move you live. And then just like MFFU, my goal with Tradeify is to get the max amount of payouts, which is going to be about 4 payouts on each of these accounts of $3,000 until they move me live with the $20,000 live account, which I believe they split into 2 separate accounts. So when all is said and done here, I'll end up with 4 payouts from each of about 3,000, so about $24,000 in payouts, and then 2 live funded accounts of 10,000 in each one. So that's another 20,000. I believe that's how they're going to do it. I'll keep you guys updated on how they actually do it. And then again, just for full transparency, here's some of the most recent payouts I got from them, and here's the dates right here. Cool, so I mentioned this a little bit before, but here's kind of my funded account strategy moving forward and what I've been doing. my main focus is on hitting my minimum daily targets, which is $100 on MFFU and $450 on Tradeify. Now it's $300 on Tradeify, just to make sure I'm hitting the minimum every day. I'm getting my 10 days in. I'm qualifying for the withdrawals. I don't need to hit any home runs. Any extra money I make, I'm not going to be able to keep, which is actually really important to note on both of these firms. If any of you have the idea of trying to do what I did here and make a ton of profit on your Tradeify accounts or pretty much any of these accounts, it's not a good idea. I meant to do it on my MFFU so I had more of a buffer, but on Tradeify, I did not want to have to make this much money. It was actually really, really dumb mistake on my end because they are going to forfeit a massive percentage of the profits I made, right? So after I take my main withdrawals, they're going to actually forfeit the difference between how much money I've made and the $20,000 they moved me to live with, which is going to end up being about 170 or $180,000 in total, which just absolutely sucks. So I'm telling you guys this because I made this error. I actually thought they paid you out the difference, which is why I was actually really excited when I did this. And then I reached out to the team because I was confused about the rules, and they clarified that they do forfeit the difference. All right. So don't make the same mistake I did. There's nothing in it for you to try and make this much money. You're just going to have to forfeit it anyways. All right, so getting back to this funded account strategy, main goal, hit the minimum every day, take max withdrawals each period until the sim funded payouts are capped, and I move to live professional accounts. This is very chill, very stress-free trading, and what this allows me to do is trade MFFU and Tradeify. I actually trade them at the same time using TradeSyncer, and then I can work on my TPT accounts, my Top Step accounts, and the 150K Apex accounts that I'm now working on as well. So that's really chill because now it's like I'm basically guaranteed withdrawals from hitting the minimums every day, which is just one or two base hit trades every day. And then I can really focus on scaling how much profit I can make the following months with Take Profit, Top Step, and Apex. Now, the reason I chose Take Profit Trader instead of focusing on Apex or some of the other ones is because there's no consistency rule. So what you can do is really scale the hell out of it. And what I'm going to use them for personally is when there's a day where we're aggressively trending in one direction, the market conditions are really good, I can go heavier on those 150K Take Profit Trader accounts, and I don't have to forfeit any of the profits. So if I make 5K across 5 accounts, that's $25,000 that I can actually withdraw the same day, which is why these TPT accounts are going to be my main focus right now. And then the Apex accounts, I'm focused on really just slowly building them up. I'm in absolutely no rush. I know they have some pretty strict rules, so I'm just going to hit, $300, $400 a day on those, on the 150 accounts, and just let those compound over time for one massive withdrawal in the next month or 2 months or 3 months. I'm not in a big rush. All right. And then the Top Step accounts are kind of like my last priority. Again, there's no consistency on Top Step, which I really like as well. But because I have so many accounts, I can't really just copy my trades across all of them because that'd be way too much leverage and a little bit too much risk for me in case I had a bad day or in case I did go on till or something. I wouldn't want to blow or do a ton of damage to a lot of accounts. So again, TPT and Apex are kind of my main focus. Top Step is my last resort. If I hit my minimums on all the other accounts and the conditions are really good, I will trade on Top Step as well. So that's kind of what I'm working with here. I'm genuinely in no rush to scale these. As soon as I start rushing the process or trying to make a certain amount of money or trying to hit records or do anything like that, that's when I start over trading. That's when I take bad trades. That's when I'm oversizing and a lot of mistakes happen. For me personally, and for most of you guys, consistency and sustainability should be the main goal here, right? Go with the flow of the market, takes what the market gives you. I'm already seeing in May that the conditions are not near as good as they were in April. There were so many opportunities to just make crazy money in April that haven't come to us yet in May, and that's totally fine. I've been much more risk off, taking my base hits, and taking what the market's giving me. Cool. So now I'm going to move into the first section of this presentation for you guys. This is specifically for you. It's the lessons that I've learned. It's what's really helped me on my own trading journey. And I hope you guys can take a ton away from this. I did all this from the heart. You can see like I literally wrote it out like I'm talking to a friend in most of it. So I'm going to go section by section for you guys. The first one is maximizing patience, knowing when to capitalize, and protecting capital. This was probably one of the biggest things that helped me in this market because there was a lot of days where I didn't take trades until the afternoon. Normally I just trade in the morning, but knowing when to put size on is huge. I see so many traders, even in my own academy and my mentorships, where they try to take trades and they have this small window where they're allowed to trade or they tell themselves they're going to trade. and the conditions are choppy, they're not good, there's no A plus opportunities, but they feel they need to take trades. That is not how trading works. There's going to be days where there's an abundance of great setups. There's going to be days where there's no great setups. You have to be able to sit on your hands and stay patient and stay risk off and protect capital. So then when those A plus setups do come along, you can put size on and really smash it. Now, something really important to note is that April was one of the most volatile months I've personally ever traded through. There was a lot of asymmetrical opportunities. If you stayed patient, if you had capital, and if you were in a good headspace to capitalize, they were there. There was 300, 400, 500 point swings for multiple days in a row due to just tariff news and uncertainty, just economic news in general. There was really, really good opportunities that were not typical. So here's some of the principles I need to instill in you guys. Not every trading day is created equal in opportunities. Some of these days I took 1 to 2 trades with small size. Others I took as many as 10 trades with size across multiple accounts. It's really important to note that you guys should not be risking the same amount on every trade because not every opportunity is created equal. There's some where you could risk $100 to make $800 and have an 80% chance of winning. And there's others where you could risk $100 to make $100 with a 40% chance of winning, right? So know when to apply size and leverage and know when to be risk off or hands off completely. The next point is use leverage wisely. This should be adjusted daily based on the current market conditions, the quality of your setups, news that's coming out. And the ways you can do this is obviously your position size, how much you're risking on the trade in total, and the number of accounts that you're trading on if you are copy trading. That's one of the biggest ways that I manipulate my risk is just how many accounts do I want to copy it across? Am I copying on just one account, 5 accounts, 10 accounts, 15 accounts? How much do I want to risk on each trade? There's so many ways to manipulate your overall risk based off the market conditions and the quality of the setup. The next thing is you guys need to know exactly what you're looking for to place a trade in the first place. If you do not have a trading plan, if you don't know why you are entering, exactly what you're looking for, what confluences are met, you're in deep shit already, right? So some of the things that I have my students ask themselves are, where are my points of interest? Like, where are the areas and levels a potential A plus setup may trigger? What kind of market conditions are we trading in? Are we trending with volume? Are we in a wide range with volume? Are we in a tight, choppy consolidation? Like, what is actually happening in the current market conditions? Because that's going to affect how much size you should be putting on. And then the last is, what are the setup criteria and confluences that need to be met for me to place this trade? If you ask yourself these questions every day before you place a trade, and you know the answers, you know exactly what you're looking for, you're going to have a lot more confidence and conviction when it comes to actually entering your trade and managing your trade. The next thing that made a massive difference this month and this year in general was when conditions were prime, they were optimal. There was A plus setups, meaning there's volume. The market structure was clear, very clear points of interest. There was momentum, and an A plus setup triggered. I added risk, right? When the probabilities are in my favor, right? When everything looks good, when all my confluences are met, when there's something moving the market, I added risk or I scaled into my positions to capitalize, because you have to realize, guys, that 80% of your profits are going to come from 20% of your trades. 80% of your total profits for the month may only come from 20% of your days. That was the first point I made, was that not every day is created equal. So you need to be able to capitalize, grab your balls, and add size when the opportunities are there for the taking. And again, vice versa, when conditions were slow, choppy, or unpredictably volatile, I didn't trade or I reduced risk. Here's 2 analogies that really help this concept stick with me. I personally love playing poker. It's very similar to trading in a lot of ways. And in poker, you do not want to play every hand, right? If you're dealt 2-7 offsuit and the probabilities are against you, you don't want to bet big, right? You don't want to size into a hand when you don't have good cards, right? It's the same thing a lot of you guys are doing in your trading. You're taking a lot of risk, or you're sizing into a trade where the probabilities are not in your favor. What you want to do is wait patiently for the probabilities to stack in your favor before putting risk on the table. That would be like you getting dealt pocket aces or suited face cards or something like that. Another analogy for you guys who do not play poker is, you can imagine that you have 3 rounds in your trading gun every single day. Once you shoot those 3 rounds, you are finished for the session. If you waste your 3 shots trading emotionally or in poor conditions or on low quality setups, you're not going to have the mental or financial capital that you need to add risk when the A plus opportunity comes your way. So the whole point of this section is to understand you have to stay patient. You should not be putting the same risk on every trade. You should not be trading every day. You should not be taking every opportunity. You should be carefully and strategically choosing the trades you take and how much risk you're putting on the table for each individual opportunity. So the next section is all about strategic risk and account management specifically for prop firms. This is how I've been able to really scale my trading and also protect my capital and my accounts at the same time. So the first thing I need to know is that I manage each prop firm account independently unless conditions are exceptional, right? And now when conditions are really good and I want to capitalize, like we talked about in the last section, I use a tool called Trade Syncer, which allows me to actually copy a trade on one firm across another firm. So if I want to take a trade on my Tradify accounts and I want to copy that trade across my MFFU accounts or my TPT accounts or my Top Step accounts, I could do so. I can also choose how I want to leverage the risk. So if I want to take 3 contracts on my MFFU accounts and 6 on my Tradify, I could do that as well. So this is a really handy tool for manipulating the leverage you want to apply to a trade and really capitalizing on good conditions. And vice versa, you could also size down a lot and distribute your risk across multiple accounts. So if you want to trade on 20 accounts at once, you can also do that. And instead of taking your normal 5 MNQ or 10 MNQ, you could size that down to 2 or 3 and just distribute that risk across all your accounts. So your chance of blowing an account or doing a lot of damage is smaller, but you're still taking a trade across a bunch. So there's a lot of different ways to play with this. I'll do a separate video on that specifically, but it is a really good tool. The reason I mention this is because this is what allows me to really crush it in good conditions, right? So I can copy those A plus trades across a maximum of 2 firms using Trade Syncer. So there was times where I took a trade with some size on MFFU, and then I copied that size with 2x leverage onto Tradify. So that way, if there's only 1 or 2 A plus opportunities, I'm not missing out on them on the accounts, because I don't like having to trade a bunch of different accounts, because that gets in my head and then I end up taking too many trades and forcing trades when the setups aren't really there because I need to get a trading day in or I need to make an extra $200 on some accounts. This way I can just focus on taking my 1 to 5 really good trades in a session, and I can just copy that one really good trade across all my accounts. Some people that's not going to work for. You're going to have to understand your own risk tolerance and how you react to a losing trade, right? So this is a big part of understanding yourself and knowing when to add that risk. I would never in a million years just blindly copy a trade across 15 accounts. It's because I know the setup, I understand the market conditions, I understand that this is a very good opportunity, and I'm willing to apply more risk to that. The next thing I do that is absolutely critical is I set strategic daily profit targets and max loss limits to protect my accounts and my mental state. I always base this on available trailing drawdown. Some of you guys are trying to base your risk and your leverage based on the account size. That doesn't matter at all. Your available trailing drawdown is your account size. So you have to understand that with futures, especially prop firms, if you have a 150K account with a $4,500 drawdown, you actually have a $4,500 account. So all your risk should be based off of the available drawdown that you have. So what I do is I set those daily profit targets and max loss limits. The max loss limits I keep around the amount that I'm trying to make on average on the accounts. That way I'm not taking any losses that are substantially bigger than my winners. And what I do is I leave a few accounts on each firm with no max profit so that I can fully capitalize on those aggressive trending days, right? I also trail my max loss limit up to lock in profit. So for example, if I'm trading and I make $1,000 on a Tradify account, I'm not going to leave my max loss limit at $500 loss. I'm going to move that max loss limit now up to break even or even in profit a little bit. So if I give back a bunch of profits, I'm never going from big green to big red. That is a huge no-no. In fact, you should never have big red days if you're using a max loss. Now, here's an example right here of how I would do it on an MFFU 50K sim funded account. Max loss on accounts 1 through 5 would be $500. The staggered profit targets, I'd have the first one stop trading at 500, the second one at 750, and then the third account, I would have no upper limit. So that way, if the conditions were really good, I could just absolutely go crazy on that account, make 1,500, 2,000, whatever it is. And then I would, of course, trail my max loss to break even or in profit once that first profit target is hit. This is what keeps me from going from big green to red and also allows me to add a little bit more size. Something to note with these is the accounts that are end of day drawdown. As you make more money, once you're above your buffer, right, you can add a little bit more size to capitalize because that amount of profit you're making gets added to your available trailing drawdown. So for example, if I have a $2,500 available trailing drawdown and I'm up 1,000 on the day, now I have a 3,500 available trailing drawdown. Therefore, I can actually add a little bit of risk to my next trade if there's a good setup, and I can really do some damage on those accounts and capitalize. Now, important note here is The profit targets do not need to be hit. I'm not saying I'm trading until the profit targets are hit. I'm saying that I use them as an upper limit to avoid overtrading or giving back profits unnecessarily. There are plenty of days where I end small green or break even or small red on those accounts. I don't force trades to hit the profit target. I just have them as an upper limit so that I don't overtrade or give back those profits, and they're locked in for the day. Once I hit the profit targets on the accounts that I set them on, I'm done for the day, right? It's those accounts are locked up. I move on to other accounts. The next thing I do that's absolutely imperative for me is I use my mental game tracker every single day. This helps me basically manage the flow of my mental game and my emotions throughout my session. So after each trade, I take inventory of myself. I take inventory of the market conditions. What's going on? Have I been over trading? Am I taking quality setups? Pretty much a full on transparent reflection of how I am doing and if I should continue, if I should decrease risk, if I should increase risk, all of those good things. Because the biggest struggle I see most traders have is they know what setups they should be taking, but because they're emotionally compromised because they just took a big loss or they just had a big win and now they're feeling euphoria, they're not taking time to reset after each trade and they're rushing into the next trade. And that's going to cause a lot of mental errors, whether it's in their risk, in their execution, in the management of their trades, whatever it is. So making sure that I'm good up here in between each trade is really, really helpful. And this doesn't have to be my mental game tracker. Try it out. It may work for you. But if it's journaling, if it's, making a mandatory 3 or 5 minute wait in between trades, whatever it is, do something to help you control the cadence of your session. The next thing that I find important is the order of the accounts that I actually trade on, right? So the first priority is always going to be accounts that are over their withdrawal targets that just need trading days. So for example, right now, my MFFU and Tradeify accounts are well over the withdrawal limits. They just need more trading days. Because those are the accounts I'm closest to getting the next withdrawal on, those are going to be the first accounts I trade on. Now, they also are the most important accounts I have. So if the conditions are not good, I will not trade those accounts or I will wait until the conditions get better. The second is the sim funded or express accounts that I have not yet reached withdrawal requirements on, right? Because those accounts have a lot of potential, but they're not there yet. So I want to make sure I hit the withdrawal targets for the main accounts. Then I work on the sim funded accounts. Then I work on any other evaluations or new firms I want to slowly build up capital on. This next section I specifically included just because I get this question asked a lot and I really hope this helps clarify it. It's how do I determine my position size and risk on each trade, right? How do I know if I should take 5 M&Q contracts and risk $300 or take 10 M&Q or 3 NQ or whatever it is? These are the questions I ask myself, right? And it all comes down to how much leverage am I adding and how good is the setup, right? So first thing is how many accounts am I copying it across? Because if I'm just copying it on 2 accounts, I can add more leverage than if I'm copying it on 10 accounts, right? How much drawdown do I have available in the accounts I'm trading on? What are the current market conditions? What is the size of my stop loss? Meaning, how many points do I actually need to risk? Because if I can get away with risking 10 points on the NASDAQ, then I can add a lot more contracts and a lot more size because that's a very tight stop loss. But if I need to risk 50 points on the NASDAQ, then I'm going to need to decrease my position size, which is going to overall decrease my total risk, right? And then the last one, which is very important, is what is my current mental and emotional state? If I'm feeling anxiety, if I'm in fear, if I'm feeling euphoric or even angry or frustrated, I should probably size down. That is going to impact how many contracts I'm trading. And there are times, and there were times this past month where my mental state was somewhat compromised and I had to either stop trading or size down. Sometimes because I made a ton of money, and other times because I just made a really stupid mistake and I gave back profits for no reason. All right, I hope you guys are hanging in there. This third section is the mental and emotional game and nervous system regulation. Right. The first thing is that you have to understand that prop firms demand your mental game to be on point, right? There's a lot of different reasons why, but they have strict criteria to abide by, right? There's consistency rules, there's minimum days in between withdrawals, there's daily loss limits and max loss limits, profit targets. There's all these different things you have to think about when you're trading prop firms, right? Prop firms are gamified to go against you. They want you to fail. They want you to buy more accounts. They want you to get funded and blow those accounts. Unless you're literally trading on a live professional account, then they don't make money unless you're blowing accounts. So all the rules are rigged against you. So you have to be smarter than them. Now, with all that being said, there's a balance between gamifying the prop firm rules to your advantage, meaning understanding the rules and taking advantage of what you're allowed to do with the accounts, right? Applying more risk and being more aggressive when you should be, right? Especially in the evaluation phases. And you're balancing that with allowing the prop firm rules to control you. I see this way, way too much. And I'm going to provide you guys some examples here, right? If you focus on the following, the money will follow, right? I'm sure you guys have heard this a million times. Focus on the process, focus on the process. The reason people say that who are successful is because it's the truth, right? The more you place your attention on withdrawals and passing accounts, the more emotional errors you're going to make out of greed and fear. That's just the truth. I see it over and over with my students who are new. People come into the prop firm game and they're so focused on getting that next withdrawal. They're so focused on how much money they can get, the potential of if they have 20 funded accounts and they make $2,000 in each one, how much they can make. Stop focusing on that stuff because you're never going to get there if you're living in dream world, and start focusing on actually developing strong fundamental skills. So here's the rules that you guys need to be following. Every single day, your goal should be to follow your non-negotiable trading rules. They are there for a reason. They are your commandments. That is your only job. If you follow your trading rules and you follow your trading plan, you will see success. Assuming that you have an edge in the market, of course. The next is have a trading plan for each trade, right? This sounds super obvious, but the reason most of you are not profitable is because you're just taking way too many trades that are outside your trading plan, right? You're wasting bullets in the gun. You're trying to trade 2-7 offsuit, right? Wait till you have your pocket aces. Wait till you have your face cards that are suited and take good trades. If you eliminate all the bullshit trades you take, I guarantee your stats are going to get tremendously better. The third thing is understand the account rules thoroughly so you can utilize them to your favor, but don't allow them to affect your mental game. For example, you only need one more day of $200 for a payout. Most of you are so focused on getting the payout today that you'll force trades regardless of the conditions, regardless of the quality of the setup, just to get that payout today because you're one day away, right? Who cares if it takes an extra 2, 3, 4 days, a week, right? By forcing those setups to try and get the payout today, you may lose a bunch of money and now you're a month away, or you blow the account and now you have to restart from an evaluation. There's no rush. There's literally no rush. So take a deep breath with these accounts. Focus on the process. Focus on taking good trades daily, and those payouts will come naturally as a byproduct. I promise you. The second example, right? Prop firm runs a one-day promotion. Everyone and their mother is trying to over leverage to pass an account in one day. Again, there's no rush. When you do this, you are reinforcing bad habits, gambling tendencies, breaking your rules, right? I would rather someone have an eval and it take them 2 weeks to pass it, but they're doing the right things, than have an eval and pass it just because they took 5 NQ contracts, over leveraged, and basically gambled the account and then passed. Because you're going to take those habits and those actions with you when you have a live account, and it's going to be much harder to stick to your rules if you're in the habit of doing the wrong things every day. Now, going back to focusing on the process, I want you guys to start rewarding yourself for doing the right things, right? Not for your end of day P&L. You can make a bunch of money. And there's a few days in here where I made a lot of money and I didn't execute very, very good, right? So you can make a lot of money and still execute like shit. And vice versa, you can lose money and you still did everything perfectly. You still followed your trading plan, you followed your rules, you executed well, you managed your trade well, and you still lost money. That's just a part of trading. Welcome. This one right here really played a big role in my own trading journey, and I see it a lot in some of my students, is you guys need to let go of the need to prove anything to anyone, right? This is a solo journey. Yes, you want to be surrounded by other people who are holding you accountable and pushing you to be better and inspiring you, but at the same time, stop comparing your results right now to where someone else is, right? You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know how long they've been trading. You don't know how much work they do behind the scenes. You don't know how much work they've done on themselves, their inner game, all these different things. So why are you comparing yourself to them? If you focus on just bettering yourself, bettering your trading skills, not worrying about other people, how much money other people are making, you're going to make a lot better progress and your mental space is going to be in a much better place. All right, again, consistency and longevity. Prop firms are designed to bring out degeneracy and gambling tendencies. I know you guys have all seen this, right? And you've probably fallen into the trap of buying a bunch of accounts and blowing a bunch of accounts and going through spirals and cycles. Most people have in this game because it's built for that. That's how they win, right? You guys are better than that. If you want to really make it in this game, whether you're trading with prop firms or a personal account, you need to take it seriously and you need to focus on longevity and consistency. And when you do that, you will be rewarded greatly financially and mentally and emotionally when you focus on that, right? Stop trying to hit those home run trades. Stop trying to pass your accounts in one day. Stop trying to get a withdrawal in one day and just focus on trading well day in and day out, right? That's going to put you in a much better place. And the reason I know mentally and emotionally is because it does take a big toll to have a P&L that's a roller coaster where you have a huge day and then a huge red day and then you're break even and your emotions are just all over the place. Your nervous system gets completely unregulated and it's really hard to find peace in your life. And I've seen this drip over into other areas of people's lives, whether it's the relationship they have with their significant other or their friends or other things. So if you can focus on the consistency and longevity, not only will you make more money, but you're going to have a much better relationship with trading and it's not going to affect those other areas of your life. You guys are trying to rush the process. Stop trying to rush the process because it's actually making the process take way freaking longer. Here's some mental game tips I wanted to share with you. They've really impacted my own trading journey and I've seen them really help a lot of my students. The first one is no matter how much money I make in a day, week, or month, always focus on staying humble, right? Because as soon as you allow yourself to get euphoric or greedy, you think your shit doesn't stink anymore. That's when you're going to make a lot of errors, right? And I also have seen that the more you're attached to the money and you start getting wrapped up in that, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so cool. Like, look how much money I made. Your self-worth and your identity starts becoming attached to you being a good trader or you making this amount of money, which it has its pros and cons. But by staying humble, now if you have a setback, you have another challenge, you go on a cold streak, it doesn't absolutely destroy you, because I have been in a place where I've had really good months and I've attached a lot of my identity and my self-worth to trading and my trading success. And then as soon as I faced a bigger setback, I was destroyed mentally. I was really, really taken back. I felt like I was worthless and it really impacted my trading and my life in general. So neutrality is key here, guys. No matter how much you win or even if you lose, you want to stay as neutral as you possibly can. That way you can continually approach trading from that neutral space, from that place of clarity, and it's not going to affect your decision making as much. So if I feel these emotions coming up or any intense emotion, it could be anger, it could be fear, it could be whatever it is, I enforce a manual mental and emotional reset. This could be as simple as a day off, a long walk, doing some breath work, or doing something fun. Also, going off this first point, treat every session as a new day. I do my absolute best, and this is a top priority for me, to not carry any emotional baggage from the previous session with me. So if I took a really big loss the previous day or I made a lot of money the previous day, I reset that night and that morning. So I'm coming into the next session completely flat, completely neutral, right? I'm telling you guys, neutrality is key when it comes to trading. Now, this has really helped me. And if you have a mentor who trades live, it may help you as well. But live trading with my students holds me accountable, right? I'm not going to take bad trades on live or forced trades on live. I'm going to wait and be a lot more patient. So that really helped me these last few months. I check in with my headspace and market conditions before each session and between each trade. Again, this reduces the chance of me making reckless errors. I regulate my nervous system. I'm telling you guys, like, this is one of the biggest things when it comes to the mental side of trading, is having a regulated nervous system. All right. Some of the ways I do this: breath work, meditation, walks, journaling, reading, cutting out cheap dopamine like social media. When you can do this, it's going to allow you to focus more. It's going to allow you to be more patient. It's going to allow you to manage your emotions throughout the sessions. And it's also going to increase your self-awareness. All really key things that are going to help you become a better trader. The last portion is reflect daily. I'm really, really big into journaling and self-reflection and understanding things I could have done better, where I went wrong, also celebrating my wins. So I like to not only journal my trades and why I took them, right? Because then I can see any errors I made, but I also like to journal my mistakes. I like to journal things I did well. I like to journal the emotional flow of my sessions. That way I can understand the patterns and the triggers in my trading. So I understand that, for example, when I get stopped out on a trade by like a few points and then watch it go in my favor and hit my PT, I know that's a trigger for me. It's like the worst feeling. And that brings up a lot of frustration and agitation. I know when that happens, I need to be risk off on the next trade, and or I need to step back and wait a little bit for myself to calm down before I place another trade, because that's when reckless decisions happen. And the only reason I know this is because I've tracked my trading sessions and the flow of my trading sessions using my mental game tracker and through journaling. And then the last thing is always journaling what you could do differently next time, right? Trading is basically like one giant science experiment. You have a hypothesis, you take an action, you get feedback, you analyze the feedback, and then you make adjustments. And you're doing that every single day. That is why reflection is so important, because if you don't know where the holes and the gaps are in your trading and you can't see that, how are you going to fix them? It's going to be damn near impossible. So if you do this every day, this is the fastest way I've found to personally improve on my own trading, and I've seen it really, really help my students as well. All right, guys, welcome to the last section of this video. This is all about the energetic shift I've been going through that has really impacted my trading and shifting how I go about life and how I think about life, how I operate in my daily life. And I'm telling you right now, this is the number one thing I would attribute my success in trading to. So pay close attention, take notes. I'm going to give you some resources as well that you can implement. But I'm telling you, out of all the things, besides literally having an edge in the market, if you do this, you're going to start winning in every area of your life. You're going to start feeling better. You're going to be more peaceful, and you're going to just you're just going to thrive. So take this portion seriously. I know it may sound a little woo-woo, but I'm telling you, like, this is really some special stuff here. So I just kind of wrote this down just like I was talking to someone, but this year has really felt different. And it took me some time to understand what was actually going on, but I've reflected on it a lot and it's become clear. So I'm going to try and break it all down for you in the simplest way possible. Now, again, the number one thing I would attribute to my success this month was an energetic shift of surrender to the flow of life and detaching from the outcomes. Stop having so many expectations of what needs to happen or what should happen or external results or external objects, material objects. When I started to surrender to God, the universe, whatever you believe in, and I let that guide me from a place of heart centered, instead of trying to control every single little thing, I shifted my whole energetic being from a place of resistance and scarcity to a place of abundance. And I've noticed this has had a massive impact on just my well-being, my life, my relationships, and of course trading as well, because in trading we're facing our shadows every day. We're dealing directly with money. If you're in a place of scarcity, like you need to make this money, you need to get this withdrawal, even if you actually do need the money, it's not a good energy to come from. And you're going to sabotage, you're going to make a lot of mistakes because you're in a place of grasping for something that you already have inside. Okay. I know this sounds a little bit woo woo, but stick with me. So, how does this apply to trading? Well, whether I win, lose, or break even, I've let go of trading with fear, ego, and greed. I'm not thinking about how much money I could make or how much money I should have made or how much money I lost and I have to make back. I'm not thinking about any of that nonsense. I'm not thinking about when the next payout is, or, what if I mess up and I blow it all, or, I just spiral out of control and do what I did 2 years ago and just blow everything, right? I'm not thinking about any of that. All I'm doing and my entire sole focus is on showing up, executing my best, and extracting as much value from the market as I possibly can on a given day. Now, when I do make mistakes or I have a day that's exceptionally challenging, instead of beating myself up, I give myself grace. And that is something that has been so difficult for me to do in my lifetime because I'm so hard on myself. I'm so competitive. But as soon as I started to be more kind to myself, it doesn't mean I'm not still working hard. It doesn't mean I'm not still competitive, but I give myself grace in the process of doing my best, because that's really all we can do is show up for ourselves and do the absolute best we can every day. The rest of it, especially in something like trading where we have no control over the markets, we can't control every variable. All we can do is what we know to the best of our ability, analyze, make changes, and do better. That's it, right? So I started to really look at these experiences as teachers, as blessings that are here to equip me so I can perform better in the days ahead, the weeks ahead. I even have had some really big setbacks in my trading career where I've lost a lot of money. And now looking back, it's like, wow, if those experiences never happened, I would never be where I am now because I learned so much from those. And I'm not going to make those same mistakes I made when I was trading with less money, when I have more money now. And I look at it the same way now as the mistakes I'm making now. I'm so grateful for making them now, because in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, I'm not going to make those same mistakes when I'm trading with way more capital, with way more pressure, because I've gone through these journeys and I've learned from each of these experiences. All right, so here's some spiritual and energetic principles that I practice daily that I promise will literally completely shift your life if you apply them. Again, the first is non-attachment. So as someone who's innately extremely competitive, this one has been the most challenging for me. But if you can drop attachment to the outcome and all expectations of what will, could, or should happen in life and trading, you're going to have so much more clarity. Your performance is going to go through the roof, and you're going to experience way more peace in your everyday life. I also need to give a shout out to the universal laws. I've studied the universal laws really in depth. I've read multiple books about them, and I apply them as much as I possibly can throughout my days and my existence. The first one's going to be the law of attraction, which I'm sure most of you have heard, right? Your dominant thoughts, emotions, and energetic frequency attract experiences of similar vibration into your life. So when it comes to the law of attraction, it's very, very simple, right? You're going to attract the vibration that you are resonating at. So if throughout the day you're just sitting in negative thoughts and you're beating yourself up and you're unkind to people and you're just in a low vibration, you're going to attract more things that match that frequency and vice versa. So throughout my day, I spend a lot of time on self-love, self-worth, being kind to others, living by my own morals and values every single day. And that is what is brought back to me, which leads me to the law of reciprocity. What you give, you receive. When you offer value, love, service, or intention with purity, right? Not to get something else, but because it's the right thing to do, the energy you emit returns to you in divine timing and form, right? It's an unseen currency of harmony that flows through all acts of giving and receiving, right? So this doesn't mean go give because you're expecting to receive. It means do it because it's the right thing to do out of the kindness of your heart with good intention, and it will flow back to you. The next one is the law of vibration, which is similar to the law of attraction, and that just states that everything is energy and everything vibrates at a frequency. Abundance exists on a high frequency, right? Think gratitude, joy, faith. And when you align your emotional and energetic states with that frequency, you become a magnet for abundance in all form, right? These are all pretty much tied together in some way, shape, or form, but I wanted to go through them because if you can live your life like this, you're unstoppable. There's many more universal laws, by the way, but the last one I wanted to point out is the law of oneness that states that we are all connected through a unified field of consciousness. Abundance isn't just out there, right? It's already within and around you. You are innately abundant. You are an abundant person. Everything is abundant. Go outside in nature and you will literally see that God created this world to be so infinite and so abundant. So when you remember that your oneness with source, you stop chasing and start to create. Now, for those of you who are interested, who want to understand these principles more and study them and start to embody them in your own life, here's some books that have really helped me. The first one is Dollars Flow Easily to Me. It's literally a little pamphlet. You can read it in like one day and it's so fire, right? And it helped me understand that abundance really is everywhere and we are all innately abundant. It also provides some meditations and some different things to help you step into that state of abundance. You can also check out the abundance meditation I created on YouTube specifically to get yourself into a state of abundance to start your day or end your day. It also taught me that energetic alignment is more important than effort, right? Abundance is not created by the hustle, the grind, but by your dominant vibration. The last is it really helps you reprogram beliefs around money. Unfortunately, most of us are a victim of our childhood or our environment growing up, and we picked up a lot of beliefs that are not ours. So this book really helps you shatter some of those beliefs and start to reprogram your beliefs about money in general. And just because trading deals so heavily directly with money and greed and fear and all those different vices, this book is very, very relevant to trading. The next book is called Ask and It Is Given. This is by Abraham Hicks. This one is a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more woo-woo, but I really, really like it. It does an amazing job breaking down the law of attraction in depth with a lot of examples and a lot of things that just really make sense in the real world, right? So again, it breaks down the law of attraction, the power of deliberate creation, right? We create our reality through intention, focus, and vibration. And then the last point that this book really hammered home is the emotional guidance system. Our emotions are our inner compass. They tell us so much about ourselves, and they literally show us if we are in alignment with our purpose or if we are out of alignment, right? And if you can tell if you're in or out of energetic alignment, right? If you're acting from a primal or a powerful state, you can make instant shifts. And as soon as you can start to do this more on demand, unconsciously, you're going to start living such a more abundant and peaceful and flourishing life. And then the last book is called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And this book is all about learning how to surrender to the flow of life and letting God or the universe guide you to your purpose so that amazing, magical, divine things can unfold for you, right? So it's stepping out of forcing and scarcity and resistance and into allowing yourself to receive all the divine miracles that life has to offer. A main point of this is that God or the universe is more intelligent than our little monkey minds. And this one really helped me to understand that we cannot control everything and to just get out of my own way. It also talks a lot about detachment from ego and understanding that most suffering comes from the ego's desires and fears. And the last main point is faith in divine timing. So stop resisting and start trusting the flow of life. Life often delivers outcomes way beyond what we could have imagined for our own life. Now, the reason I'm sharing all of this spiritual stuff with you guys is because it directly correlates to my trading, and it will directly correlate to yours. If you're operating from a state of abundance, you will attract more abundance in your trading. If you're operating from a place of non-attachment, you're not going to feel the need to force so many trades. You're going to be able to focus on the process more. If you're surrendering to God or the universe or whatever you believe in life's divine timing, you will be open to receiving more beautiful, unimaginable opportunities that you could have never even imagined. Synchronicities will start to come into your life and you're like, what the hell? Like, this is actually crazy. And that happens daily, all the time. You're going to become more and more aware of it. Once you guys understand that the secret sauce comes from the inner work and changing your mind, shifting your energy, how you operate in your life, not a new strategy, not a new system, not a new indicator, not a new mentor, that is when you guys are going to see massive, massive breakthroughs in your trading. I promise you. Now, the last final notes I have for you guys is because of this lasting energetic state I've been operating in. I've been working on operating in it for a long time, but it's really been the last 3 to 6 months where I've really, really felt this shift. I've experienced more gratitude, more self-love, and more peace than I have in a very, very long time. And it has obviously had a dramatic impact on my trading. And I can feel that's the main difference. Right? I don't know how to tangibly show you it's the main difference. It's you can just feel how you're operating. When you step into a trading session, you don't care if you win, lose, break even, whatever, and you're just able to just look at the chart and just follow your rules, take a trade if it's there, not take a trade if it's not there. It's a superpower. Now, my final notes, I know this has been super long, is on nervous system regulation and exposure therapy. A lot of you guys want to scale up and start making a ton of money. I hear it all the time, even in my own students. Oh, I want 20 Apex accounts so I can make 500 grand a year. I want this, I want that. And you're all thinking about all this money. You cannot go from not having a strong skill foundation, trading with 1 or 2 accounts, to just having a ton of accounts and being able to trade full size and still manage yourself emotionally. Your nervous system will literally not be able to handle it, and it will impact your mental game. I promise you. So, you have to normalize making more money. We can do this with something we like to call the staircase method, which is slowly increasing your exposure to more risk. As you start to increase your exposure, there's a point where it's like, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable. Sit in that and trade in that little uncomfortableness. Eventually, that will become the new normal. Then you step it up again. You're a little bit uncomfortable again, right? Then you become comfortable with that. And you keep doing that with exposure therapy. It's the same thing as like going to the gym and lifting 20-pound weights. You do that for a month or two. Now that's normal. Now you can start lifting 25-pound weights. It's like progressive overload for your nervous system. All right. That's how you can adapt to trading larger size, more accounts, and really scaling your trading. But if you don't do this and you try and shortcut it, you're going to have huge setbacks and you're going to spiral. Now, the last point I'm going to leave you guys with is on self-love and self-worth. And please hear me when I say this. If you don't feel worthy and safe to make and hold on to more money, you will unconsciously find ways to protect yourself and sabotage your progress, right? And that is a coping mechanism. So I know there's a lot of you who reach out to me all the time and you're like, Nick, I'm stuck in a boom and bust cycle. As soon as I get close to payouts, I blow my accounts. I'll trade well for really long and then I'll do something completely ridiculous that I never do and I lose all my money. It's because you don't feel worthy and safe holding it. You're not attuned to success yet. There's unconscious beliefs and patterns that you have that are holding you back, and you need to do some work on that. So the reason I put this in here is because if you're experiencing something like that, work on your limiting beliefs. Work on your own relationship with yourself, your self-worth, your self-love, your shadows, all these different things. And if you need help with stuff like this, reach out to me. I have a lot of different tools and resources, and I can work with you guys more one-on-one if there's something that you want to go deeper into specifically. But this is a really big component of the inner work that we do. And this directly impacts your success as a trader. Because if you don't feel worthy of making a lot of money, you're not going to be able to keep it. So that's what I want to leave you guys with. So if this video opened your eyes, you found it helpful, you found it insightful, you learned a few different things. I tried to share some stuff that most traders do not talk about at all. share with a friend, leave a comment. I'm really interested in what stood out to you guys the most, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.